What is it like to recover from alcoholism? Are you struggling with alcohol right now and are fearful about the other side, about not drinking, and what does that actually look like and feel like? Or do you have a loved one that you care for, either a family member or a friend, and they're struggling with alcohol right now, and you would like to know what does the journey look like to go from alcoholism to sobriety? If you answered yes to either one of those questions, you are in the right place, and this is the right video for you. Hi friend, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, where we offer addiction solutions for family members and friends who have a loved one struggling with addiction, in addition to the person who is also struggling with the addiction. Between myself and my partner, Dr. Jamie Redwing, we handle the clinical and medical aspects of recovery as we are addiction specialists. I myself have been working in the field for over 27 years of behavioral health and specializing in substance use disorder. My role mostly has been as a clinician, therapist, program director, and clinical director. Dr. Jamie Redwing specializes in addiction science medicine, and she also handles all the medical components to our program. So the question is, what is it like to go through the recovery journey from alcoholism, to go from drinking, alcoholic, and then to become sober? And the reason I think it was important to talk about this is because I've had some people asking me about it and inquiring, and I've done some research on it, and I found some videos through the YouTube channel. I found some information out in the general searches. And what I found is really mostly individuals sharing it from a clinical perspective or a treatment perspective only. In other words, not knowing what it was like to physically go through that actual journey. Well, I think that you'd be very surprised to find out that this would be a perfect video for you if you'd like to learn both ends of what this is like. Because I'm going to discuss not only the clinical and therapy end of this, but I'm also going to discuss what is it like from a personal level. Because I myself struggled with alcohol many years ago. And I can share my experience with you as both what it was like to go through that process to get me from then to where I am here today. And I'd like to share that story with you so that you can be informed and have the right information from not only the clinical and treatment aspects of it, but from the personal aspects, so that you'll understand this process completely. So that, again, if you're the one struggling with addiction right now with alcohol, or you have a loved one, this will help put you at ease because you'll have a greater understanding about it. So where do we start? Well, let's start in the beginning. First, I'd like to state that this is going to be a narrative video that will discuss this process in kind of bullet points and fast forwards through many parts of it. I want you to understand that you're going to get the crux of what happened and what that whole journey is like. But I will be doing a long video on this in the near future that will discuss the entire journey, but I'll be breaking it down through all the different stages incrementally throughout that process so that you can have a really large picture of it. But you will definitely get the concise information today in this video of what that process is exactly like. And again, it'll be coming from my story. So in the beginning, I'm one of three children. I was the oldest, and I had a mother and father. I grew up in a basic, normal household. You were middle-ish income to the, for the most part. My father was a police officer, and my mother worked part-time as an educator. I did have family members with alcoholism. My grandfather definitely was on the borderline today, I would say, to becoming an alcoholic. His father, my great-great-grandfather on my mother's side was absolutely an alcoholic. And then on my father's side, both of his parents were raging alcoholics to the point where he even left home early as a result of that. And he struggled with dealing with anyone with alcohol because he had such disdain for it as a result of going through that as a child, having alcoholic parents. So there's a genetic predisposition that is always, you're going to hear me talk a lot about, not just in this video, but in our other programs going forward and our other videos going forward. There is a predisposition there from a genetic standpoint, and I just want to preface that because it's important to understand that there's somewhere in that journey, there was somebody who had alcohol in their bloodline that passed it along, okay? That doesn't mean everyone who's been predisposed to have an alcoholic family member is going to become alcoholic or have an addiction, but it definitely increases the odds significantly. So what is it that brought me from then to where I am talking to you today about this journey? Well, my dad died when I was 12. He was only 37 years old. He had cancer. Sadly, he struggled for a couple of years, but could not beat it. It was a tough battle. When he died, our entire family collapsed and disintegrated. My mother remarried and everything fell apart and went south very quickly. Within a short time frame, I found myself homeless at the age of 17, no fault of my own, living in Central Park in a snowbank in the middle of December and listening to families going around and shopping for Christmas presents and listening to Christmas music and the colored lights while I had a little tiny, almost igloo-like place to stay in Central Park in the middle of December. And from that journey point forward to going to today, I will have to say that one of the first tools that I found that could help anyone with trauma, dealing with a traumatic event in their life, and that certainly I had significant trauma at this point, was to have a substance into the body, a substance use that would change your state, it would change your state change, which would take you out of here. And that's exactly what alcohol did for me at the age of 17. I discovered it and I felt like, wow, this is the thing that can solve my problems. I don't have to feel the pain anymore as I went on my journey and tried to figure out life as a 17-year-old kid who is scared and afraid and just trying to find his way in a very, very scary world, in which it still is to this day. So after that point, I found my way by finding jobs, working. I was also a musician. I was an avid musician from my early childhood. So by the time I was 19, I was able to connect with a band and traveled for a couple of years working with a band. Though it was very poor in as far as the poverty conditions were concerned, because we did not make a lot of money, but we traveled all the time. So most of the hotel rates or places were for free because it was done under the band guys, but it was not a lot of money. But it was an adventure for a couple of years, and it certainly was something that gave me something to do. After that short stint working as a musician, I found my way into working in the corporate world, and I worked very hard to start from zero to find my way and work my way up the ladder through different organizations, which I did very quickly. As I went through this process in my very early 20s, so did alcohol. Alcohol became a very important crutch for me because it was something that could take me out of the pain that I was feeling from the trauma and the events that I had to go through from my childhood that brought me to that present moment. So alcohol was a major part in this, but I would not say at the point of where I was alcoholic. So as I was working my way through the corporate world and working my way up that ladder, I did find that alcohol was a great tool and resource. Though I didn't drink every single day, I certainly had most nights that I would drink, and certainly on the weekends pretty heavy. And I found it to be a perfect tool to take me out of myself from the pain and the discomfort and all of the abandonment that I felt as a family member whose family collapsed and left a lot of traumatic events into me and in my life, in a sense. So going through that journey, that alcohol was a perfect tool. It was a perfect crutch. And as I went on and time passed, I continued to drink more and more, to the point where I did get to a stage where I realized that I couldn't stop drinking and that something was wrong. And at this point is where I realized in the beginning that I was going to have some challenges because I could not put it down. And I just thought for a period of time, I'll manage it and everything will be okay. And the challenge is that the minute you're trying to control something or manage it, initially, right from that point, you're already out of control. I met my wife at that time. We got together, connected very quickly. We were soulmates right from the beginning, best friends, and we got married, had a son, and my alcohol really took off, and it was a real struggle. And to the point where I was drinking almost on a daily basis, and it was a maintenance drink because at this point I was dependent on alcohol. If I did not have alcohol in my body, in a sense, I would be shaking. I wouldn't be able to function. Even though I was working, and you may call that the functioning alcoholic, and I was constantly in the work environment, it was a real challenge because I still needed to do that all day long. Little nips here and there just to keep the alcohol flow in my body so I didn't have any severe shakes, in a sense. So, and at the very end, it got to the point where I was drinking, where I actually had to take a drink in the first part of the morning. And I knew that I would sadly throw that up because it was just so toxic at this point to my body. That would actually numb my esophagus to the point where I can get the second one down and it would stay down. So if there was ever a definition of true alcoholism, that would certainly be it. In the very beginning of my journey, when I got to that very desperate moments, my wife, who's been the angel in disguise at that point, became the full angel and she believed in me the whole entire time, and she found a way to get me to the right help that I needed. She said some words to me to this day that impacted my heart and struck me to the core. She said, "Don't you know your life is worth living?" And that statement alone is what brought me into the initial treatment cycle and brought me into help. So what does that treatment cycle look like? Well, when I entered treatment, it was a 3-day program. It was 2 nights, 3 days, and it was for detoxification primarily. So it was withdrawal management, it is called today in the clinical programs, but at that time they just called it detox. And what happens in the early stages of your addiction, getting off of that addiction, they use medications. In this case, I was given Librium, a benzodiazepine, to help calm the body system down as you start processing out the toxins and your body processes through the acetone and what all the components of alcohol is. And we do have some videos that we talk about how this breaks down. In fact, there's another video, and I'll leave a link for it below, from Dr. Huberman, who breaks down the process of alcohol in the body. It's a 2-hour podcast, but it's brilliant, and he's a neuroscientist. And I would encourage you, if you really want to learn more about it, definitely see his video. So in that short period of time, within 24 hours, I was finally stabilized. I was past that threshold of severe pain. I felt a lot of anxiety. There was certainly a lot of confusion, but there was certainly a sense of being rejuvenated, being born again, or being new in a sense. Those first few days getting out of treatment, I felt really like a brand new person. It was just amazing. It was as if you took that soaking wet sponge and you dried it out, and you just had this brand new product in a sense. And that's exactly how I felt. And in the early stages of that journey, that's exactly what that was like. In the 12-step program, they call it the pink cloud. And the pink cloud is where just everything feels brand new. And it is, in a sense, because at that point, I wasn't gaining my life back. I was beginning a new life. My previous life was that of an active alcoholic. This was a new journey. And that journey took off very quickly for me. I was very active with 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things that I found fundamentally helpful with that program was that two things, actually. The first is that the people in the program are really what the program is about. It's just people helping people. They were just the great feedback, the opportunity to talk, the opportunity to vent, the opportunity to listen and learn too. And the second thing is, in the 12 steps themselves, they're very principle centered, and it's actually genius on how the founder, Bill Wilson, had put them together, because the sequence of them are the principles of us as human conditions. And the very first step, the principle behind it, is honesty. And I couldn't do anything until I was honest. And I really learned that very early on. So from that point forward, I did seek out some counseling to help me through the trauma events that I had. And that was a tremendous help. And anyone who's gone through a traumatic event, I highly encourage that. That's a big piece to take into your treatment cycle, is making sure that you get help for that, because the trauma is something that impacts us severely and can continue on for the rest of your life until you're able to come to terms and to deal with that. And again, working with a therapist will help you with that. So from that point forward, my life turned around literally. I had bad days. I had days that were tough. We had tough moments in my early recovery. There was a lot of financial damage that I created as a result of my drinking, and I had to take care of a lot of things, where I had a lot of responsibilities and things to take care of as a result of my behaviors during the alcoholism. So there was the first year I spent trying to work on taking care of and making amends to all those things that I had pretty much destroyed, in a sense. And then I really started my journey brand new again. I decided to have an opportunity to go back to school, and that's where I started to study psychology. I started to study addiction science and medicine and understand what was this whole process about, because I had not only the firsthand experience, but now I wanted to learn about it as well too. One of the things that in that first year that came back to me that was amazing was that I was able to get back into music again. And what I mean by that is that during my heavy alcohol use, I did not touch an instrument, did not do anything musically at all. I just was completely abandoned that whole thought process, because the addiction had just kind of taken over all parts of my life, in a sense. And I just did not have the urge or desire for something that I had such a passion for. And it was great to have that renewal after that first year in recovery, that I was able to get right back into it. And kind of like riding a bicycle, once you get back on it, you're really right back into your groove and moving on. And so I was able to participate back into adding music into my life, going back to school and working on my new degree so that I can perform and work in the field of addiction medicine and working as a therapist. also, in addition to the music pieces, I was also able to collect a lot of new relationships in my life, surrounding myself around with some great people that I met on my journey, both from recovery programs as well as just natural, normal programs, and even reacquainted with some old friends from way back as a result of getting my life back. The rewards that have come from that journey some almost 30 years ago, I can not give you enough emphasis on just how tremendous that was. And even the most darkest moments in all that time in recovery, nothing at all would ever compare to what it was like to deal with the active addiction. So if you are struggling, you want to know what that journey is like, this is it in a nutshell. In the very first couple of weeks, it is a challenge, but it's a brand new challenge that feels very enlightening. It's anxiety mostly, for the most part. There's some physiological shakes a little bit because you're just kind of getting your body back into shape, but it's like a brand new door opens up and you're looking at the world from a brand new set of eyes, a paradigm shift, as they would say in the clinical field, where you see the world from a completely different set of lenses here, because my perception of the world changed drastically in that first couple of weeks, in a sense. And the journey went on and grew very quickly. There was a lot of great things I was able to get back into my life. I've heard a couple of videos where they talk about there's some things that you may like or did like while you were drinking alcohol that you won't be able to do anymore. And I respectfully disagree with that. If there are things that were not revolving around alcohol itself specifically, that you had interests and hobbies, and if you were doing that while you were in alcohol and you still have that interest and hobby and that's something that you like to do, you can absolutely return to it, and more likely or not, you will enjoy it in a new way because of the fact that you'll be sober and clean. So I really want to preface that because I've heard that from a couple of different videos where they talk about that and say there's things you're not going to like anymore, and I respectfully disagree with that. You're not going to like being around alcohol itself to drink and to use that as a beverage. Certainly, that's almost a no-brainer. But that doesn't stop you from doing things in your life. In my first year in that returning to music, and I played with a band part-time weekends. It was my weekend thing and my way of enjoying another part of my life. But we played in bars, we played in clubs. And I had a cooler with 6-pack of water. I had 6 water bottles with me, and then I would enjoy the entire event because my purpose and intention to go out with that group of gentlemen to play was because it was for the music and the performance and the opportunity just to get out and play my instrument. Had nothing to do with where I was at, because I didn't need to be at a bar to tempt me. If I wanted to drink, I didn't need any temptation. It was always going to be there. The thing is that in recovery, when you turn your life around like this, you realize you do not have to change this any longer. You do not have to make any shifts in who you are. This can be open and free and honest, and then you can start to really enjoy your life, to become empowered to do so many different things. And it's just, all these years later, every single day still continues to be an amazing journey. I look at life today as a get to do, not a have to do. And a lot of this background is what inspired me to start Tiger Resilience a couple of years ago, because the program was designed to help families who have a loved one struggling with addiction in addition to the person with the addiction. Because I've also found in my years' experience of working as a clinician, family members are the ones that are the most neglected, but they're the ones who need it the most because they're the foundation. They are the rock that holds everything together. And a person who's new in a recovery, if I did not come home and have a stable family life with my wife and things were complete chaos, it would have been a much harder challenge, in a sense, to get into recovery or to stay sober. Now, I preface that by saying that doesn't mean I wouldn't have stayed sober, but having that support is absolutely a key, essential part of it. Having somebody there who believes in you, even if it's just one person. For me, the way I've seen it in all my years working in this field, even if an individual just had one family member or one friend or one person who believed in them, or somebody in the recovery program that believed in them, that was all it took for them to start that journey and to flourish in that recovery. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, the first couple of weeks are a little bit shaky. You find a new light within the first couple of months. You start to see a lot of new opportunities open up for you because you're now seeing the world in a different light, in a different way. as you take care of any of the issues that you've had during your addiction and start clearing off that plate from anything that you have to deal with, whether it's financial or legal or any other issues, once you get all that cleared off, you really have this brand new road, and it's a brand new journey. So that's exactly what it's like to get sober from alcohol, from both a clinical perspective and, of course, the personal perspective. So if you'd like to learn more about Tiger Resilience in our program, please see the link below to learn more about us and what we do. We do focus on families to educate them and give them guidance and coaching and services to help them, and the resources to help them understand the addiction aspects. And we work with all the different substance uses, whether it's alcohol, opiates, methamphetamine, speeds, cocaine, tobacco, and also some process addictions, whether it's gambling or sex or having challenges with shopping and such. So addictive behaviors are just what they are, as a behavior in a sense, and that's what we focus on and specialize in. So if you'd like to learn more about us, please see the link below. If you found any value at all in this video, could you please consider subscribing to our channel, or at least liking this video so that we can pay this forward to some other family members who could benefit from this, and potentially somebody struggling with alcohol. If you yourself are struggling with alcohol, please know there's hope, there's help, and there's a way out of this. And that journey is an amazing journey. Do not be afraid, because the doors that will open up for you will change your life for the best forever. And I say that from a firsthand experience, some 30 years later, to say that is exactly what can happen for you. I wish you nothing but the best, and I respect you for stopping by and taking a look at our video, and for your time and your busy life and busy schedule. I look forward to seeing you again in our next video. Again, I will have a full, complete video broken down into the very components and stages of what this whole process was like. Today was just a narration of it so that you had a good insight about the fact that you can recover. Life does change. It gets way better, and you do have a better tomorrow ahead of you. Thank you once again. I wish you nothing but the best today.